Is there any outreach to younger voters to encourage them to vote?
Absolutely. This was another one of our highlights, is getting to all the high schools that we can. Today at Sayusla in Florence was a good example of that. We're looking for every place we can get. And I think it is, I mean, one specific thing that is worth reminding young people in our lives. A lot of people these days are being registered to vote automatically when they get their driver's license. When we do that well, that's a good thing. But a lot of people don't realize that there's a choice they get to make after that. They can choose to remain non-affiliated voters, but we're not going to choose a party affiliation for them. And if they want to participate in a primary election, they do need to make that choice. I don't know if this happens as much for you, Julie, but I've heard from other clerks that people will sometimes come in around a primary and say, I got the wrong ballot. I needed a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot. And the clerk has to say, well, you're registered as a non-affiliated. And then at that point, it's too late to change that. So if there are people in that situation in your life, remind them, we've not yet passed the deadline for that. If they want to participate in a primary, they make that choice and then can participate.
This is a similar question. The last election was the first time I've seen, and this is in quotes, I'm not into politics at all, and I'm not voting either. Most 18 to 32-year-olds in Bandon didn't vote in 2024. Is the state doing anything to change their minds?
Everything we can, but we're not going to be able to do it alone. It requires all of you and all of us in our individual lives. I think sometimes the most effective thing is to talk about elections that were decided by small margins. My first election for the legislature was 86 votes. You've probably all heard the story that former Governor Kate Brown tells about her first election being decided by 7 votes. I'm sure you can come up with some good examples around here that would be relevant. And I think just reminding people of what's at stake and how those individual votes do make a difference to the outcomes. But we'll show up anytime you want us. If anytime we can add our voices to that, let us know and we'll be here. Okay.
Can you? I can't leave it on. Yeah.
They're hearing you, they say.
Okay, yeah, I should just put down the mic. Can your office and local clerks provide one-page simple flyer listing how Oregon ballots and our election is safe, and explain how misinformation is incorrect? Needs to be well distributed. All can help.
Yeah, again, we'd love to have your help on this. We can certainly help with content. We are sadly going through a lot of budget cuts in our own office as well, as the state and Representative Boyce will attest. They're tough budget choices right now, but we can certainly help with content, and if we find creative ways to distribute it, we're all in. That's true too.
Thank you out there. Okay, here's one. If mail-in voting is abolished, what are your contingency plans?
Well, I'm tempted to defer in a sense, or I guess just defer is not the right word. I'm gonna say some things that if you doubt me, you can check with your clerk here. It would be a major challenge. First off, I don't think that's possible because the Constitution is really clear. Article 1, Section 4, the time, place, and manner of choosing elections is reserved to the states. And we're making that very clear in Congress. I don't think that Congress is going to move away from that. But if somehow that were to happen, not only is it a lot less convenient for voters, it's a lot more expensive. The best estimates I've seen are triple the cost. And why would we want to go to a place where you have to stand in line? You have to give up time at work. You have to get a babysitter, all of those sorts of things. So we have to have tools to deal with all of those things, and we do. But I think we're not ceding anything. We do this because it works, because we get high turnout, we get high security, and people love it. So I think we're in very, very strong position. Of course.
Excuse me. How will the president's executive order banning voting by mail affect Oregon and our federal funds?
Well, there are two executive orders. The first one, you may remember, near the beginning of his administration, was aimed at a similar target. It essentially was trying to force what we've been talking about as the SAVE Act by executive order. Well, we sued and we won, and that executive order is not in effect. The second one that came out this last week, I think, is every bit as unconstitutional because it flies right in the face of what it says in the Constitution. I am not a lawyer, but we are with 20 plus other states who are suing, and I don't think that's going to go into effect. It would make things a lot harder for people to vote. It would make it more expensive and more difficult. It would essentially give the federal government the right to determine who is eligible to vote and who isn't, and dictate to the post office who to send ballots to and who not to. And we believe both of those are unconstitutional. That's why we're fighting it and why I don't think it's ever going to take effect.
To be clear with everyone, if the secretary has already answered a question that you put forth, I'm not sending this to him. Okay, next. Will Oregon help pay for election voter protection?
I'm not sure what that means exactly, but we are absolutely doing everything we can to invest in the security of our system, particularly when it comes to what county clerks are dealing with. In those 36 visits, I saw a wide range of physical settings, a wide range of resources. Some are much better off than others. Yours is in a strong position, but not every county is as fortunate. So we are investing in those things that put clerks in particular in the strongest position they can. I might have to follow up with whomever asked that question to better understand the intent.
Have county clerks prepared to guard against physical damage to or theft of ballots at clerks' offices? And then they have ballots were stolen and burned in Jackson County in the 20s.
Yeah, every clerk's office submits to us a security plan. But I also am mindful of what Mike Tyson famously said about plans. Maybe you know this. Everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face. So we have to have tools too, and that's a big part of what we're doing to make sure that the clerks have what they need in terms of tools and that they are anticipating disruptions. The other part of the story, I'm sure you've heard about the explosives that were placed in ballot drop boxes in Clark County, Washington, and Multnomah County. The rest of that story is pretty good too, because they were able to identify which ballots were affected and make sure that those votes counted. So those tools are in place. We're always looking to add to them and to anticipate everything that could happen.
This is not a question, but somebody from the league put this out in answer to the question about election security. There's a one-page sheet at the welcome table as you leave. Pick that up if you're interested. Reading, okay, I'm not sure what. Okay, this is regarding ballot harvesting. Is it legal? ? What is the limitation of the process? I must admit, I don't understand this. Maybe you do.
Well, I think this is another one where it's a loaded word. Most of the time when I encounter someone who talks about ballot harvesting, what they're talking about is someone who's delivering someone else's ballot. And that's no problem in Oregon because it's signed. They had to sign it for it to be legitimate. So you can, if you trust someone else to deliver your ballot, that's fine. I like watching it go in the slot myself. I feel lucky that my wife's, trusting enough of me to put hers in. I trust her, but I like that ritual. If you want to put it in the mail, that's fine. If you want to help, and please do. If you have the kind of relationship with a neighbor or a colleague or somebody who isn't going to be able to do that, and you can help them out, that's great. But they're signed. They're individually tracked with barcodes. So there's no problem. I struggle to understand that loaded word as a problem.
How How are you combating election conspiracies? What steps are being taken?
I'm here. I'm talking to all of you. That's my first defense. It's the best offense. It's people who know what's up, who can talk to their friends, neighbors, colleagues credibly, who can say, I heard it directly from the Secretary of State, or better yet, again, I might have to duck behind the podium if Julie starts throwing something at me, but if you can go visit your clerk's office and watch what happens there, you can say, I saw it. I saw the security measures, the controls, all the precision and care that our county clerk puts into this. That's great. It's a little bit like knocking on doors in a campaign. It's slow, but it's durable. People remember. Who do people trust? People they know. People they know to be credible. That's all of you in all your networks. You're going to be able to say, here's what I know. Don't believe that stuff. There's a term called pre-bunking. So you can tell people that you think might be hearing that, hey, you might hear this, but it's not true. This is the truth. That's the most important thing, and that's something that every one of us can participate in. It builds resilience. It builds strength in our system, and we certainly need that.
If the Constitution gives elections to the state,
It does. There's no if, but I'm sorry. You're just reading. Sorry to interrupt.
since the Constitution
Yes,
gives
thank-
elections
good
to
edit.
the states, and the president swears to uphold the Constitution, how can he control elections?
Is anyone willing to claim authorship of that question? I like that question a lot. That is it. Yeah, right. After I say I like it, then all the hands go up. No, this is exactly what I say in various speeches and interviews. I say, I watched the president take an oath to the Constitution. Did he not read that part? Did he forget it? Does he not understand it? Maybe all three. Article 1, Section 4 does not require a law degree to understand. He does not understand that. That's why that first executive order was thrown out, and that's why I think the second one will be too.
In the past, to register to vote online in Oregon, you had to provide a driver's license number. Now it is possible to provide instead the last four digits of your social security number. Can you explain why this change was made?
Yeah, it was a bill passed by the legislature. It's our job to follow those laws. And essentially what it's doing is making possible what already happens in paper. So that's the same thing on paper forms. It's that simple.
What is your perspective on voter ID being mandatory and why?
We have it in Oregon. It happens when you register to vote. You have to prove your identity, and when you vote in Oregon, you have to sign it. So you're proving that you are who you say you are. So I think we have it. I think that's one of the geniuses of our system. I think it's that simple.
Keeper of the cards.
Okay.
How do you address security concerns about Oregon's vote by mail and ICE presence ballot locations?
Well, the nice thing is that when I talk to people outside of Oregon, it's amazing how many times I'll talk about vote by mail and they'll say, well, what about your polling places? Like, what are those? Yeah. We don't have those. Well, can I vote in person? Yes, wherever you want. Whenever you want, just get it back to us on time. The fact that you can vote at home, the fact that you can do it whenever and however you want, is a real source of strength. So if someone showed up, I don't know exactly where they show up. You know, if you are a person who senses something uncomfortable about a particular drop box, come back later, go to another drop box, put your ballot in the mail. All are options to you. We are making sure that county clerks have a clear understanding of their authorities, have a clear sequence and procedure about how they would talk to their county council if someone showed up demanding records or exceeding their authority. So again, we're trying to make sure that everybody has the tools, but our system has a lot of resilience that a lot of other states don't.
In the news today, there was talk of a Supreme Court ruling on vote by mail. Do you know what happened with that?
I don't think there is a ruling yet. I'm aware of the case. This comes from Mississippi, and it's challenging the idea that there are 14 states, I think, where a ballot can arrive after election day and be counted if it was cast on time. So I have the simple position that if you've cast your ballot on election day and it's the Postal Service that delivered it late, the vote should still count. It hits the same security concerns. It follows the same processes. It shouldn't be thrown out because the Postal Service delivered it late. That's the question that is it at play in this Supreme Court case? And to my knowledge, I mean, it does take a while to drive here from Portland. Maybe it came out, but I think I'd be surprised if I hadn't heard if there was an actual ruling. There were arguments, and they're considering it. That's also why I tried to make those PSAs in my prepared remarks. It's just better as soon as you are ready to make your choices, fill out your ballot, get it back, use the drop box if you can. If you need to use the mail, do it early. If you're late, get a hand postmark on it. That's the best advice. And if the Supreme Court rules that grace period is out of bounds, we will communicate that and really try to double down on those pieces of advice that make sure that ballots get to us on time.
This one I kind of think is a repeat.
Okay.
But President Trump often writes executive orders that then end up being questioned in the courts. Is that what is happening now? Will votes still be counted, elections held or announced?
Yeah. Yes. So there are a couple different things I would say to this. It is a similar question, but I think the practicalities of this executive order, let alone the constitutionality, reveals how unserious it is. You can see that in the executive order, it talks about how the Department of Homeland Security, using multiple unreliable federal databases, will provide to the states a list of approved voters 60 days before the election. We're 42 days before an election right now, before our primary election. So even if you thought, oh, this is reasonable and constitutional, it can't happen. So they've not thought through this. They've not addressed the costs, the unreliability of these federal databases, some of which show a 20% error rate already. None of that makes any sense. The other piece that was, I think, included in that question was whether we're going to have elections. And I want you all to help me on this. The history of this country is long and varied and deep. We've had all kinds of things happen over the course of our history. We've had earthquakes, we've had wars, we've had pandemics, we've had all sorts of things happen. But you know what we haven't ever had happen? We have never canceled elections, and we are not going to. We have to build that expectation. We have to provide that expectation, that norm. So we got to talk about it. We got to tell everybody that. Don't let that idea take any root. It will not happen in Oregon. It will not happen across the country. That's what we all have to be committed to.
Okay, if you were Oregon's governor and you wanted to up Oregon's climate change resiliency game, what would that look like?
Well, there is a funny bit of trivia to start with that. I like asking high school students this too. I'm going to set them up and say, so if the president leaves office, who becomes president? They all say the vice president. And then I say, if the governor leaves office, who becomes governor? And then they stop. Secretary of State, because we don't have a lieutenant governor. So I think that we end up, when it comes to climate, we spend, in my view, a lot of time talking about the things we want to avoid, how bad things will be. And that's legit, but I don't think we spend enough time talking about how much better we can make life and how much economic security and opportunity and advances can exist when we invest in climate solutions, in businesses and technologies. And I would like to be focused on how to make Oregon the epicenter of that kind of an economic, technological business revolution that puts us on offense around the climate. There are good examples of that in every part of the state, and that's what I would want to focus on.
Does your view of voter rules not being included or updated properly, and why?
So I'll repeat the question, or maybe you want to repeat the question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Essentially, the question was about voter rolls and voter maintenance and some of the steps that we've taken in recent years. So there's two kinds of lists that we have in Oregon. There's the active voter rolls, about 3 million people, and there's a list of inactive voters. That's about 800,000 people. I want to be really clear about this. I might even repeat it twice. Inactive voters do not get ballots. If you don't get ballot, you can't vote. So if you hear all this stuff about all these inactive people who voted, no. People have asked me, how many inactive voters voted? And I said, 0. They don't get ballots. But there is a process by which inactive voters can be removed entirely. And it's worth saying how someone gets inactivated. Let's say you were not as careful as I urged you to be with your signature. Your signature was challenged and you weren't able to, or you didn't go in and fix your signature. You would go on the inactive list. Your record is still there, and you can get back on the active list by going in, connecting with your county clerk and correcting that. You would also go on the inactive list if a piece of mail from the elections office came back as undeliverable. If there's reason for the clerk to think that your information is out of date, it would go on the inactive list. Then there's a process that needs to happen to say, hey, you're on the inactive list. If we don't hear from you after a period of time, you're going to be removed from the list entirely. So what we have been doing is getting back to that rigorous, detailed work that moves people along. And it's just allowing us to not use outdated data over time. So those 800,000 people who are currently, or actually we've removed a significant chunk of that, 140,000, I think, that were immediately eligible. We had gone through the process, or the previous administration had gone through the process and not actually removed them. We've restarted the process that leads through that sequence and will allow those inactive folks, if they meet all those other criteria and have not responded through 2 federal elections and so on, to be removed. That is an extraordinarily wonky, detailed answer. But the bottom line is we're doing the maintenance work to make sure that lists are up to date and they're accurate.
You said that the best thing we can do to support democracy is to support county clerks.
Well, it's to vote, but if you want to make an investment, county clerks are a great one. Yes.
How does an individual citizen do that?
Let me introduce you again to your state representative here at the front of the auditorium, Court Boyce. This gentleman has a vote in the legislature. He gets to vote on budgets. So I go in front of the Ways and Means Committee and ask for budgets. And I want to be in a position to say, let us as a state support county clerks more. Let us make sure that every county has the resources to do ballot tracking, as some counties have elected to do, where you would get an email or a text if you opted in that says your ballot's coming to you, and then another one that says your ballot's been received by the county clerk, and a third one that says your signature has been verified and your ballot will be counted. I haven't met a clerk yet who doesn't like the idea of that, but they don't have the resources to do it. There's one county clerk that this is kind of a sad story for me. Was very proud, justifiably, of the fact that she was able to install bulletproof glass in her office. That's sobering by itself, but in the next breath, she looks towards the top and says, well, there is still that gap between the top of the glass and the ceiling. Somebody could throw an incendiary over that. They shouldn't have to worry about that. We shouldn't be in a position that we're not able to help with that sort of thing. And we ask a lot of county clerks. We ask a lot of elections where there aren't any county offices, and we just expect counties to pay for that. We should be in a position to better invest and better support. And I'm sorry to call you out, Representative, but you're a target of opportunity here. We want to make sure people understand it. Yeah, he'll help us write the bill. There we go. Thank you.
Excuse me, but that person of that question was looking to a point of how he could volunteer or she could volunteer.
Fantastic. I am certainly not in a position to answer that for the county clerk, but she's here at this county. And I would encourage anyone to be in touch with their county clerk. If you know your county clerk, you're in a better position already. And needs and, capacities vary across clerks, but I don't think any clerk is going to be unhappy about hearing from someone who is willing to volunteer. There are certainly opportunities to observe elections. And I apologize, Julie, I forget exactly your setup. Some are in person, some are remote, some are online, some look through the window or sit in the space, some have different setups. But if nothing else, being there and observing and being an experienced person who can talk about what goes on there, that's a great way to support the work of clerks too.
We have that more often for go online for our website.
Perfect.
Would the Coos County clerk stand up so people can know who to come?
Julie Breck here.
And the Curry County clerk wanted to be here, but she's too busy mailing out ballots.
The good
Okay.
person, no doubt.
Okay, I think it's your turn. Yeah.
It works.
And they're still hanging in. No one has left that I can see.
I know.
Listen.
They locked the doors.
Oh, excellent. Good plan. Everyone has to commit to getting all their family to vote before they leave.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it possible to check the signature used when registered? Is it possible to check the signature used when
Yes,
registering to vote?
yes, absolutely. And this gives rise to a funny story. One of the clerks I visited said that she gets critiques sometimes or worries. Sometimes they say, well, sometimes I'm angry when I sign the ballot, which is funny on its own. I liked the clerk's response. She said, well, give me the angry signature. It varies depending on your clerk, but you can certainly go in if you think your signature has changed. You can go in and update it. But again, if you have a driver's license, that's a good clue. That's often what has been transmitted to the clerk's office. But they have it, and Julie, you want to fill us in on that too?
Please, we are not taking anything.
No, I
Oh, that's a county clerk.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
you blame
Sorry.
me. Blame me.
So it's not what we're
That was
doing
my
here.
phoning a friend.
Huh?
I'm very serious.
Yes. Yes.
But teacher, I understand. Yeah, so when you sign your name, it's important to remember that you can sign however you normally sign. A lot of people worry that they need to give me a very formal, like their most beautiful penmanship. And that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what any of the clerks are looking for. What we're looking for is however you normally sign. If you're worried about your signature, you can reach out to us. But the best way is to just update by filling out a voter registration card and handing it in to us.
Yep.
Our signatures do change over time, but the people who check the signatures are trained as well. And we normally have multiple signatures for you on file.
Yeah. Thank you. What can you tell us about the process for verifying citizenship of those who attempt to register to vote?
They have to produce a document that proves that. A driver's license that that includes citizenship. Of course, you can get a driver's license without doing that. So there are different types of driver's licenses, or a passport, or a birth certificate.
Can you speak to current voter suppression issues and those that are likely to come up?
It's a broad question. Yes, I'm opposed to them. I don't think they're good. I think we are trying to anticipate any of them that might show up and combat them with good information, and making sure that people know their rights, know how our systems and processes work, and how they get to participate in it. So perhaps that's when I should follow up with the author too, to better understand what they're after. And I can hang around for a bit after to do that.
Right, yeah, I don't know. What? You want to?
No, let's do it after. Let's keep going. I'm saying I can hang out after if some of these questions I'm not getting the intent. I'm happy to talk with people individually offline.
Thank you.
Close.
Why are some candidates in the voters pamphlet and not others?
This is a good question. The voters pamphlet is a subsidized publication, but you have to pay to submit your information, and some candidates choose not to do that.
Thank you.
That was too short.
Sorry, I need to give you a little. You want me to filibuster for a little while? The voters pamphlet is a great thing. It takes.
What's the question? He's fooling with you.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, that's right. Exactly.
Some people express concerns about ERIC, the Election Registration Information Center. About half the states are subscribed to it and half are not. What does Oregon use?
We use ERIC, and it's a good system that allows states to exchange information and say who has moved or who has died, and making sure that we are able to eliminate those records that should be eliminated. I do think it's funny. I got an email from another Secretary of State, whom I will not name, saying that their legislature had passed a bill requiring them to develop a system to do this, essentially this. And I said, you just left Eric. That's what Eric does. So I think there's a lot of misinformation about that too. There's good security in place. We retain control, but it's a way to say, here's a record that needs to be updated.
Do you support automatic voter registration with the DMV? Why or why not?
I do, because it allows people to not face another barrier to vote. I was very frustrated. I don't think anyone was any more frustrated than me with the way the casual, shoddy way it was implemented. It resulted in some bad results, but we have dramatically improved that, added a lot of new checks and controls to that process, and it's allowing more people who are eligible to participate, to vote. That's a good thing.
This one may look like conspiracy thinking,
Okay.
but what do you believe the federal government wants with our confidential voting information? What is the lists that they can't get elsewhere? How have any other states handed over their information?
They have, and I appreciate the prelude you offered to that question, because it is speculation on my part, but this is not information that the federal government has authority to get, and they don't have any legitimate need, in my view. If they are talking about wanting to ensure that we're engaging in the right the maintenance efforts and those sorts of things, there are other ways to check that. So it's hard not to think that they're up to something else. And the worst case, or the bad cases of that I can imagine, is a national voter database that would allow people to be targeted based on how they vote, and what their affiliations are, and that's not acceptable.
What is the status of campaign finance reform? What would it cost to enforce it? And how can you enhance transparency of campaign donations?
So the legislature passed a bill in 2024, and then subsequently this year passed an update to that. What I think you need to know is that we are all, virtually all of us anyway, aligned on the idea of stopping the unlimited flow of dollars into campaigns. It is a serious effort on our part, because it's a major change, both in terms of administration, in terms of technology, in terms of expectation for campaigns and donors and voters. But we're committed to that. What will happen at the end of this calendar year, the end of 2026, is that the contribution limits will come into effect. So we're preparing for that. It is a serious, challenging effort, but we're on that path, and that's a good thing. There are other aspects of that bill that relate to transparency that are very technologically heavy. As a result, they are expensive, and the bill gave us some additional time to do that work in a rigorous fashion. But even right now, Oregon is amongst the most transparent when it comes to campaign contributions. It's a ORSTAR This is some of you have dealt with this, is a database that has existed a long time. It was state of the art in 2007. We're working on updating that. It has to be replaced entirely to accommodate what the bill dictates to us. But what we don't want is a poor implementation that would cause people to feel like we didn't make good on that. So the limits take effect on its original schedule at the end of this year, and we're doing the work to make sure that the technology aspects of that bill are implemented successfully. That's another one of those that I could wander down a very deep hole in details, but I don't want to put everyone else to sleep. And if anybody wants to talk more about that, I'll hang out afterwards.
This may be related to what you just said in
Okay.
terms of extra.
Yeah.
What you do besides voter stuff.
Yep.
Can you talk a little about your non-election related duties as Secretary of State, such as State Land Board, the Sustainability Board,
Yep.
and audits?
Yeah. Trying to decide which order, because they're all rich topics. I think probably the most widely applicable in an audience like this is audits. This is exciting to me because it really is the opportunity to narrow the gap between good intentions and great outcomes. I often summarize my attitude about Oregon by saying we are long on good intentions and short on follow through and execution. And we get to go anywhere that state money goes and check in on things. My predecessors, well, start with another observation. When I was treasurer, everyone had a stock tip for me. Said this is what we need to invest in. Everybody had an idea. Now that I'm Secretary of State, everyone has an idea for something that needs to be audited. And I don't, with rare exceptions, I have no objection to the ideas. But if you look at the track of the state budget over the last 20 years, it's up. We spend more as a state than we did. What we have not increased is the number of auditors. So we have to be really diligent about choosing our priorities. And instead of basing it on anecdotes, basing it on how many people have talked to me about something they're concerned about, we spent a lot of time in our first year building a risk assessment. The themes are things like, where are we spending a lot of money and not getting the results we want? Where do we have a history of bad results? Where are we vulnerable to a disruption of some sort? And perhaps most importantly, where are the real lives of Oregonians at stake? We turned those into quantifiable indicators and created an algorithm basically that says, where are the riskiest places? Where are we likely to get the best audit return on our audit investment? And we're working down that list. It's not to suggest that this methodology is perfect. I'm sure we will refine it over the years, but I want to make sure that we are open about our methodology and able to say, this is how we picked what we were going to do. Now, the audit piece, there's a role here for you too, because while we have the authority and the responsibility to conduct these audits, we don't have authority to enforce any of our findings. We make recommendations. And again, Representative Boyce, I'm sorry, it's the decision makers like legislators or maybe city councilors or school board members who make those decisions. So if you see an audit that you agree with, you have an opportunity to say to your elected representatives, hey, are you paying attention to this? Are you asking the questions of those state agencies? Are you requiring that they react? Maybe they disagree, but at least they should consider those recommendations as the decision makers are making policy and budget choices. So that, I think, is one of the most important responsibilities we have in the Secretary of State's office. I could go on about the Sustainability Board and the Land Board. It feels weird to be the senior member of the Land Board, but I was there as State Treasurer as well, so I have been there a little while. But I can talk about more, but I'm sure there's still more questions too.
Okay, this is the last question. What
Happy she was coming up to remind us, and she turned around.
is your view on the value of the Electoral College?
Well, when I was in the legislature, I carried a bill on the floor of the House that would have made Oregon a party to the National Popular Vote Compact. And I'm guessing that people know what that means. The bad news is that it didn't pass. Passed the House and then went, like so many other things, to so many other good ideas in the Senate die, right, Representative? But later on in a subsequent session when I was not a member of the legislature, it did pass. And just in case not everybody knows this, what that says is that when enough states that represent a majority of the Electoral College have committed to this, they will each individually award their electoral votes to the winner of the national popular vote. So it would effectively end the Electoral College. I think it's I mean, it's not without risk, but I think it's time.
Well, that was the last question, and we want to thank the Secretary of State for coming. This has been in works for 3 months. The Secretary's staff has been wonderful in helping us set it up, and I want to thank the league, the screeners, the question screeners. Yeah, good work. And the greeters and everybody who set this up, especially Abigail Bach, God bless her. And thank you all for coming.